Salon owners, let me ask you something. How much time are you spending chasing new clients, posting reels, running promotions, crafting offers for first time guests? Now, let me ask you this. How much time are you spending making sure the clients you already have are coming back? If the answer is not enough, this episode is going to be just for you.
I love it, because today we're flipping the script and talking about how retention and referrals are the real way to create predictable income inside of your salon. So let's talk about the truth when it comes to income uncertainty, because income uncertainty is that anxious feeling when you're not sure if you'll hit your numbers and be profitable. So you're just hoping that clients rebook, you're hoping that retail sells, and you're hoping new clients show up as well. But let's be honest, hope is not a strategy. So let's get you out of survival mode and into systems work.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. Hope is not a strategy. Strategy that is so good. So let's first, we have to dive into the real cost of what it takes to acquire a new client. So we're going to get a little mathy on you. So you might want to get some pen and paper for this. You can stop it once you listen to the recording, go back and listen to it again, because you're really going to want to understand this number. It can help transform the way you do business. So this is just going to be a scenario of a salon example. So let's say, for example, your salon spends $2,000 a month on advertising. So this can be Facebook ads, this can be Google ads, any kind of advertising or marketing. In this example, your salon spends $2,000. Your overhead is $100,000. We're going to say that in this instance, you bring in 100 new clients a month with an average ticket of $100. So that's $10,000 in new client revenue. We did 100 times 100. That's how we got 10,000. So also in this scenario, we're saying that new clients are responsible for about 12.5% of your revenue. So they also account for 12.5% of your overhead, or 12,500, because remember we said our overhead was $100,000. So if you add in your ad spend and you're spending $14,500 to bring in 100 clients, that actually equals to $145 per new client. Let me say that again. That's $145 per new client. So if that guest doesn't ever return, like, you lose money, you lost money, even if they paid you for the service, or even if that client only spends $100, you definitely lost money, especially if they never return.
That is so good. And really the way that we came up with that 12.5% was when you take that 100,000, or sorry, you take that, Jen went over the average ticket was $100. You saw 100 new guests, that equals $10,000 in client revenue. So we added in also that ad spend. And then that's how you figure out that percentage to know how much they're responsible for in your revenue. And you might also be thinking, gosh, hey, this is really great mathy math that you guys just shared with us. And it truly is, like, when you start to get this and you realize, like, oh my goodness, if they're not spending $145, then we lost money. It makes you realize, like, yes, we absolutely need new guests, but the most important part, you guys, is this next part, which is the mistakes that most salon owners make. And that is mistake number one, is focusing only on those new clients, because the returning clients are your gold mine. So let's talk about, what are some action steps that you can take if you're making mistake number one, which is only focusing on new guests. Let's really dote on those returning clients. Let's delight them, write them a thank you card, add a surprise treatment for them, really just show them that you care. Mistake number two that most salon owners make is missing the signs when someone is fading away. because usually somebody just doesn't ghost you right away. And if they haven't rebooked or bought retail or responded to any messages or anything that you've sent them, that's a yellow flag. So I pulled a report after I stepped away from behind the chair. And what was shocking to see, Jen and I had very similar situations
Mhm.
happen, were that 7 guests I loved hadn't been in for 10 plus weeks. So immediately got on the phone, called them, sent them handwritten notes. What was really cool is that 4 came back. One of them moved, one had gone somewhere else, but she ended up rebooking with us again because we cared enough to notice. And so that is a huge thing. When you start to pay attention to that, you can prevent that mistake from happening. And, mistake number 3 is thinking client loss is normal, because some is, but pretty much all or most, quite a bit, is preventable.
Yeah. Yes, I love that. And so when Lindsay was saying most is preventable, like you have to think about creating that client rescue system, that CRS we like to call it. This is when you could send a "you've been missed" card. You follow up with a phone call. You make it impossible for them to ignore you. You add a little bump in the envelope. It could be a chocolate if it was Mother's Day, or a 20% off a retail item. It could be anything just to make that connection to them and let them know, hey, we see you, we hear you, we want you to come back in. And so that, you want to build that customer service culture. Like if you think about Disney's, for example, like every cast member, and Lindsay said this the other day, she's like, I love that they call them cast members because they truly know what their position is. So if you're thinking about Disney, like every cast member starts with like Disney traditions. And so that's a class where they learn how that Disney's real products aren't roller coasters. They're actually about creating happiness for guests. It's about making people feel special. And so same thing at our salons. Like your salon, your real product isn't the haircut or the lashes or the color. It's actually creating confidence for clients. It's creating renewal. It's creating belonging. And you're not just selling services, like you get to sell that transformation. And so when you're thinking about client loss, you've got to have that customer service training to prevent breaks in the system so that your team truly knows how to use the systems and how to look for opportunities to continue to elevate your experience.
Yes. And Jen, my audio and video cut out for just a second. So I don't know if you can see and hear me okay, but hey, stuff like that happens inside of the salon. Can you see and hear me okay?
I can. You're back better than ever.
Awesome. Yeah. So, it's amazing how often we just don't even realize that this is going on for us inside of the salon, and I think when you start to build that culture, like you were just talking about, and you start to ask, I think it starts to make a huge difference in what you see for sure.
That is so true. Someone we were onboarding someone or a new hospitality host the other day, and the schedules weren't working out for that first day of onboarding. And somebody said, yeah, we're just going to, could we just get her started up front without her understanding and going through the onboarding? I said, absolutely not. Like, they have to have that context. They have to know why we do what we do, not just what we do, but they have to understand the why behind it. And I think that's what Disney is really good at. And that's why, in our industry, new guest retention for us is like 24-25% in our industry. Maybe yours is higher, but for Disney, their new client retention is 70%. So if you imagine transforming your salon to have 70% new guest retention, how that impacts everybody's take-home pay, the salons, it impacts the team's take-home pay. You're able to do more for your front desk or hospitality team, whatever you may call them. And also you're serving your purpose of making people feel more confident so they want to come back because their life is transformed as well. So I love that, really thinking about like, what are the opportunities to continue to train your staff in the customer service experience?
Mm. Yes, so good. And I mean, just think about what all you could do if your new client
Mhm.
retention was like Disney's at that, 7 out of every 10 new client coming back. Like when you really start to focus in on this area, that is what explodes businesses and explodes your
Mhm.
income. And so let's talk about some referral marketing that works because most people don't refer because no one asks. So here's a great little question that you could ask anybody who comes into your salon. Just ask them, hey, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer us to a friend? And if they respond with 1 through 4, call them right away and find out what went wrong,
Nine.
because exactly. 911. Hey, is this Susie? Did you give us a 1 through a 4? We're here to help. Okay, this is Ghostbusters. See what went wrong. Because a lot of times it's like a minor thing that, like, hey, if you could correct it, like that could just transform that client relationship. It could turn them into, a 5 to 7, or it could turn them into a 10. But even if you can't transfer the number, even if they're like, I wouldn't, spit on you if you were on fire. Hopefully you don't get that response. But even if they did say that, just know that, hey, 10 years down the line, they're going to remember that you called them. You cared enough to call them. And so, it might be water under the bridge at that point. But if you don't call, you'll never know. And if they respond with a 5 to 7, this is what we like to call the neutral zone. This is a good opportunity to engage them or surprise them or look for a way to build some sort of connection. And if they respond with an 8 through a 10, those are your people. Those are your hidden influencers. But guess what? They need tools. So create easy, thoughtful ways for them to refer. Give them, a give 20, get 20 card, or, give them many gifts to give out, or offer them some sort of special thank you for referring you. Do some sort of handwritten invites. Just make it feel good for them to share. Make them want to get that word out and that message out for you.
I love that. Make it feel good to share. That
Mhm.
is a beautiful thing to think about. So let's dive into 6 ways like to add value and build wealth. So one would be like increase transaction size with treatments and add-ons. And you're doing this for the purpose for creating a solution to the client's greatest problem. We're here not to give someone the ick, we're here to give them impact. And we truly know that when hair is treated or when skin is treated with the right things, people feel more confident. And so being able to increase your average ticket, which would be your transaction size, like you're making people leave with more value. They're going to feel more confident. Another opportunity is to invite guests to visit more often. That would be like celebrating their birthdays. Recently, Lindsay and I actually are able to send our clients a happy birthday message from our team to our clients on their birthday. So on their birthday, they get a text from our salons, they open it, and there's the team singing them a happy birthday. So, and then with a special little birthday gift, like that's how you get guests to visit more often, or even like celebrating their half birthdays. You've probably seen the marketing around half birthdays. Hey, it's 6 months, it's halfway to your birthday. Come in and enjoy X, Y, and Z. And so that's one way to add value and build wealth. Another one is the be the one stop beauty expert to reduce spending elsewhere. Like we are in the business of creating a complete look for clients from head to toe. So no longer do we just do hair or skin. We have to help them see the opportunities of what clothes to wear, how to do their makeup, like what jewelry to wear. Like that's creating that that look for someone that makes them feel more confident. And people, when they're in our spaces, they want to buy makeup, they want to buy the tools you use. So having them accessible for them where they can just grab it that day and have it that day, like it's going to make their life easier. Another opportunity is increase retention with better rebooking and reminders. So having scripts That's really a beautiful thing, having those scripts with your team so that they know, how to ask for a pre-book, how to, what's the best way to set the client up for success and the stylist up for success. And it's not, hey, my schedule's really busy, you should go ahead and book, or the holidays are coming up, you should go ahead and book. I'm so busy. Look at me, I'm so busy. That's not the script we're talking about. Like, you want them to have a script that serves everyone to their highest good. One other thing to add value and build wealth is to win back lost clients with those personal touches. We talked about that. Lindsay shared that story of how when she no longer was doing hair, and some of the clients that she was serving hadn't been in a while. So she personally reached out and was able to attract some of those back. And like, how special would you feel? Like, if you went somewhere else just because you're like, yeah, it was good, but if there's something missing, and then the owner or that service provider reached out to you, like, tell us how we can do better. Tell us how we can be better. That's what Disney would do. And that's why they have new client retention at 70%. Another opportunity is ask for referrals often and reward them often. And so again, it's teaching your team to have those scripts, to know when to ask for a referral, to know what to say, and to also reward the clients that are referring lovely clients to your salon. Interesting fact, there's other amusement parks besides Disney. Like in our hometown, there's Carowinds, there's Six Flags. I don't even know all the different amusement parks. I think they might be owned by Paramount. But even if they're not, it's interesting. I was just there the other day with my niece, and I thought, I wonder what their client retention is compared to Disney's, because I knew that Disney's was 70% and their new client retention is only 40%. So it's like they have more systems in place at Disney than any other amusement park. And that's how they're able to ripple that out. We were just there the other day and they were doing Make-A-Wish for kids at Carowinds where we were at. And it was just so interesting to watch is, they get a special place in line, which is awesome. We loved it. My little 6-year-old niece loved watching it too. And it was like some rides, the attendants were almost aggravated that they were having to deal with this. But on some rides, some of the attendants were high-fiving the kids. Like, you wouldn't have that at Disney. All attendants would have been high-fiving the kids at every single ride. And that's what sets companies apart. That's what changes your retention from, new client retention from 40% to 70%. So just think of ways that you can add value and build that wealth.
Wow. It just makes me want to pass out some high fives. That's incredible. It's so good, and I think it's easy to say, to come up with lots of excuses for why we do or don't do things in life. But I'm just curious, did you know that there are 60 salons for every Starbucks location in America? Wow. Let me say that again. There are 60 salons for every Starbucks in America. And Jen just recently shared this stat with me, and I shared it with some people earlier today. We were talking about it, and I was like, so how many salons or how many Starbucks can you think of in our town? And they were like, well, 1, 2, 3. There's 3. And I was like, yeah, there's 3 like freestanding locations. But there's one in our grocery store, and then 2 more in other grocery stores. And we forgot that there's one in Target. And so we came up with 6, and I'm in a small town, so there's quite a few Starbucks. And so we did the math. I was like, okay, so if there's 6, so first we only thought there was 3. So that would mean there's 180 salons in this town. But now that we discovered, hey, there's actually 6, because we forget about those little hidden closet ones. There's actually probably, 300 and, 60 plus salons in our town. And that's wild when you think about that, because what it means is standing out is the only way to grow. And the difference is systems, standards, and consistency, because wealth is not built on viral videos. It's built on repeat business and relationships. So we would invite you to audit your retention, refine your referral systems, train your team, and remember, predictable income doesn't come from hustle. not at all. It comes from strategy and systems. So now go build the kind of salons that clients never want to leave.